I have little doubt that you've probably heard that Amber Heard has changed her lawyers. Too many Heards in that sentence, but yes, Amber Heard has changed lawyers for her appeal. So I would like to talk very briefly about what that might mean, why people change lawyers, and why people may or may not jump to conclusions which may or may not be correct. Too many may or may nots in that sentence, but here we go. So in this video I'm going to give a very brief overview of this, but do be sure to look out for another video from Mr. Robert Shaw and me tomorrow on this very same subject, discussing it from many more different angles. So just looking at the headlines gives you an idea at just how many different ways this can be perceived, just to read out one or two. Initially, one reads, Amber Heard hires new lawyers for the Johnny Depp trial verdict appeal. Another headline reads, Amber Heard scraps attorney Elaine Bredehoft and hires new legal team to appeal Johnny Depp verdict. Another one, just Amber Heard hires new lawyers. Another one, Amber Heard switches up legal team for appeal of Johnny Depp trial verdict. Another one, simply Amber Heard makes a change in the legal team. Another one, interestingly, slightly different in the interpretation. Sorry to be the lawyer about it, but I am. Amber Heard's lawyer Elaine Bredehoft steps down from representing actor. Another one, Amber Heard's new legal team, a smart move for the next court battle, was reported by someone else as a different way of putting it. So lots of these different headlines give you a different flavour, a different interpretation as to what's happened. Notably, the last couple that I mentioned, Amber Heard scraps longtime attorney versus Elaine Bredehoft steps down. They are not the same thing. One of them is suggesting that she's been scrapped, i.e. Amber thought she wasn't good enough, so has gotten rid of her. The other one, switched up, perhaps suggests on one interpretation that she's gone for somebody better, which I don't think is a fair assessment, because I would generally not make such an assessment between lawyers, such and such lawyer is better than another, unless of course in England and Wales, which isn't always the case, you're saying that you've opted for a QC as opposed to a junior barrister. Junior, by the way, meaning any barrister that's not a Queen's Counsel, which could still in theory refer to anybody who is not a Queen's Counsel, often referred to as senior juniors within the profession and outside of the profession. But all of these different headlines give you a different flavour on essentially the same news, that Amber Heard has changed her lawyer. So why might this be? Well, there can be any number of different reasons, and I would suggest that any one speculation may or may not be correct, because it's just a speculation. Unless she outright came out to say, I have changed lawyers because of XYZ reason, then I suggest that no one can really be sure as to why this is the case. There are some reasons, however, that might be worth some kind of scrutiny. For example, it may be that if an action is funded by insurers and the insurer has said, well, we will support you through the appeal, but provided that you change lawyers, that might be one tack. It might be that the insurance company has said altogether, we are not supporting you anymore, in which case the person needs to find another lawyer because the lawyer representing on behalf of the insurance company is now not instructed because the insurance company has withdrawn. An alternative might simply be that there's been a falling out over instructions on the case. Vis-a-vis, the client wants one thing, the lawyer has suggested another, and they just can't reconcile the differences. Another example of where the lawyer is replaced might be where the lawyer has withdrawn for various professional reasons. For example, when they just cannot any longer put forward a positive case in accordance with their client's wishes and desires and instructions. If the lawyer feels that that is not a proper way to proceed with the case, but the client simply insists and the lawyer just cannot do it, the lawyer may withdraw from the case on that basis. Another reason, which is probably a more sensible reason, is that appeals are very often a different type of trial than the trial itself. Simply put, the appeal is not a trial. The appeal is an oral representation, which doesn't in fact always require oral representations in and of themselves. They are normally done on the papers, and even in Virginia, because I've looked this up, each party given around 15 minutes of oral representations on top of the papers, which is delivered as a bit of a bundle to the court to consider the facts of the case, essentially assessing how the decision was reached and upon what evidence and various arguments that come forward. One or two of those arguments might prove to be fruitful, so you might have to tune in to listen to Mr. Robert Shaw and me tomorrow. But either way you look at it, the one conclusion that you shouldn't draw, even if you might be tempted to draw such a conclusion, is that she's decided that the lawyer is no good. That would be unfair, and that shouldn't really be the conclusion that people come to, although I accept that many people do come to that conclusion when somebody switches out a lawyer. Even in cases I've been involved in, when a lawyer suddenly changes or withdraws from the case, sometimes openly and publicly withdraws and is professionally embarrassed, this can give an indication as to what's happened in the case. For example, in case in point, there was one such case, a criminal case. I'm not involved with many criminal cases, but this was one such criminal case. In this such case, the victim, rightfully so, because the defendant was convicted, and the defendant both had exactly the same name. Only when it got to court, defense counsel went to the wrong person, said, "You are Mr. X," to the victim. The victim said yes, but it was the defense lawyer who expected to be talking to the defendant, so promptly started discussing the case, only for it to transpire that they were talking to the wrong party. Of course, the lawyer had to withdraw from the case because the lawyer had disclosed trial strategy essentially to the wrong side. So in that case, it might have been salvageable, but it's much more sensible for the lawyer to have withdrawn at that stage because it simply wasn't really feasible for the lawyer to proceed. There's an ethical point there, which if we forget, remind us in the comments tomorrow when we discuss this as well. These are all ethical scenarios, ethical discussions that we must always bear in mind. But as I say, I think it would be unfair, regardless of what has gone before. I think it would be unfair to simply put it down to the client thought the lawyer was bad. There's a whole lot of reasons why someone might change lawyers, many of which we will discuss tomorrow. So make sure you like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get notified of new videos for tomorrow. And as always, thank you so much for watching.